Hello Aries, and welcome to your in-depth monthly forecast for September for the Sun or the Ascendant. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I'd be honoured if you did so now. Also, please join with me on Twitter at Horoscope Ace, or check out Elisa and I's daily astrology and tarot video show by clicking the link beneath this video. You can get your free daily horoscope every single day. Also, if you've yet to download your free natal horoscope, please see the link below. Right, this month begins with the Sun and Mercury in the sign of Virgo. Now, Virgo is very much about practicality. It's about the details. It's about making sure that we're getting some kind of tangible evidence of where we're applying our effort. And sometimes that does mean making sure that we go through the processes really efficiently. Now, the bigger picture in your situation sees your ruler Mars in a right angle with the restrictive energies of Saturn right through this month. Also, Mars goes into a retrograde on the 9th, which will last till mid-November. Now, when Mars and Saturn are in more challenging planetary angles, it can create a sense of frustration, limitation, and resistance. But let's consider where the big three are. So we have the big physical planet of Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn, and that has been going backwards for 3.5 months as this month begins. But the great news is that that starts to go forwards on the 13th. But we also have Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, which is about ambitions, it's about goals, it's about status, and it's about work and responsibilities. So your individual desire to manifest what's good for you in terms of your personal expression, your ego, could be challenged by the expectations of how the world is out there. Now, that could be because we have a lot of pressure coming through COVID, and in terms of the Sun and Mercury position, they're asking you to be aware of those details. So that's the kind of background picture that you're met with as you come into this month. But on the 2nd, there is a full moon. Now, this full moon is in a delicate area of your situation. If you are feeling a bit drained as you come into September, I think it's very important not to deny to yourself that there could be an emotional, psychological, or spiritual component of this. But don't beat yourself up about it, Aries. This particular full moon actually angles very positively to the planet of new ideas, Uranus. So this would be a fine time to think about the way in which you could express yourself perhaps in a new setting as far as where you provide hard work, services, and application of your talent. So if you find yourself looking for a new job on the back of this full moon, or to adapt, because Uranus is asking us all to be flexible around the more physical part of your existence, because it's in the fixed earth sign of Taurus, then try to go with that, because if you do resist, this square between Saturn and Mars could just see you trying to go your own way when the environment is not very availing to a completely individual approach. So in other words, I think you are going to need to let go a little bit of your individual ego, to put it bluntly, but at the same time understand the expectations and obligations that come from others and the way it is at the moment, even if that does create some frustration. But there are going to be some wonderful opportunities this month, not least from the 5th, when Mercury, the planet of communication, moves into your opposite sign. Now, it is true from the 18th through to the 23rd that Mercury is clashing with tiny but influential planets. Pluto. You could encounter someone who is a bit difficult to read, or however much you try to reach into what they expect of you, it may never seem to be right. So the important thing with Mercury in the sign of Libra for you is to try to keep dialogue flowing. And also, on the following day, Venus moves into the glorious Leo for you. And in the following week, they're broadly in a wonderful sextile with one another. So this would be a very good time to go on a date, try to rejuvenate an existing relationship by doing something more spontaneous, more nurturing together, particularly if there have been a lot of worldly demands. And it can bring a more playful dimension to your situation. Of course, Venus has been in the sign of Cancer, which is much more to do with the home and emotions and the comfort in your relationship. So going into the more playful, exuberant Leo is a wonderful thing to embrace from the 6th of this month. Now, as I mentioned before, on the 9th, your ruler does go into a retrograde. And of course, it has been in shadow for some while. If you have felt a little drained, just the world picture has been more difficult to digest, it wouldn't be a surprise. I think we're all being affected by what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and the physical reality of how our lives have changed. It is such a fundamental shift. But the quarter moon on the 10th of this month encourages you not to try too hard to be too virtuous, to try to change things. Narrow your focus in the following week. If you scatter yourself too thinly, I think you could end up feeling a bit drained and a bit stressed. But on the 13th, Jupiter ends that retrograde. And if it has felt that you've been walking through a field of glue over that period of time around those big hopes, or whatever you've been trying to manifest in terms of your ambitions just haven't quite been happening as quickly as you would like, there is going to be an improvement from here on in. Also, on the 17th, we do have a new moon in the sign of Virgo, which is a great opportunity for you to think about health, diet, fitness, nutrition, exercise, the basic organisation of your existence, but it links superbly well with Saturn. So if you're prepared to be very focused on what works in a practical way, even if you're taking creative or imaginative ideas but moulding them into something that's more tangible, you're going to have a great deal of progress over the following 4 weeks. Also, the Sun is forging a terrific angle through week 2 and week 3, initially with Jupiter and then with Saturn and Pluto. So if you can kind of accept where things are and take a very methodical, step-by-step approach to trying to inch forwards and not get too caught up in seeing your end goal and then getting frustrated that your first steps towards this are inhibited. It's more about setting yourself small targets and then progressively ticking each of those off. And I think that will give you a sense of real progress as this month goes on, rather than getting overwhelmed with what can't work out for you. Now, it is true from the 13th to the 18th that Venus does square it with Uranus. Something could happen for those few days, a bit unexpectedly around your love life. It could also be the case that you may try to do something spontaneous, perhaps a grand gesture, in order to impress someone. Don't. Just stay naturally yourself. Your sense of humour, your enthusiasm, your warmth of character are going to grasp the right prize for you. And if you try to push it, a bit like your worldly interactions, I think it will be counterproductive. Now that brings us to the 22nd, a critical point in the astrological calendar. It's an Aries point, and of course it's the autumnal equinox. So this is the point where the sun has gone exactly halfway through its journey. It's looking back across the heavens to where it started its journey at 0 degrees Aries in your sign. So this is a good time for you to review your relationships, but also where you're being competitive and testing yourself out. If there are people you do have to work with, perhaps at work itself, that maybe aren't your cup of tea entirely, this is just encouraging you to believe in yourself, believe that you can find the ways to make progress, and by taking a more collegiate and consensual approach to life, it can actually be very positive for you. Don't see this as giving away your power, because I do feel you can still be assertive and create boundaries where you need to, if need be. Now, Mercury then makes its way into one of its deepest, most passionate transits of the year on the 27th, when it moves into the sign of Scorpio, which, like your sign, is governed by Mars. This can give you a desire to unpick not what people are saying to you, but what they really mean. It's you're getting the code untangled, you're deciphering things. You could find yourself, if you like watching telly, watching those series of murder mysteries, or where we see cops clearing up past crimes. I love watching those myself, but you may find that those type of things really call out to you, or reading some crime novels. But then it could be esoteric content that really calls out to you. You may think about having a reading with somebody, or may do some research to understand your natal horoscope a little more. But certainly getting underneath the surface of life takes on a much greater appeal. Now, on the 29th, a big moment, because Saturn ends its retrograde. I think we can all let out a sigh of relief on this one. But for you, if it has been a sense of toil over the last 4 or 5 months in terms of the bigger picture, those goals and ambitions, especially with the backdrop of COVID, it's not going to be a surprise. And really, the central theme of this month for you, Aries, is understanding that with Mars in conflict with Saturn for the whole of the month, the more you try to force the pace, the more it was just going to be very self-defeating. So it's kind of like working within what you're given, being patient, applied, doing your best, and really focusing on those individual elements, those segments, and that's going to take you forwards. But the last 10 days is for sure going to be much more about relating and relationships. Now, if you'd like to ascend above your zodiac sign and embrace more serious astrology, please check out my affordable range of astrology reports below. There is a special offer, 30% off for a year's forecast, transit forecast, and also your character analysis. Or please check out my testimonials if you would like to have a one-to-one with me. But for now, stay safe, take care, good luck, and goodbye.